We are excited and happy to present to you the third edition of the Dhaka Art Summit, which is even larger in its scope, scale, and quality. For this edition, 11 international curators from some of the most reputed museums in the world have worked on art projects, making it a unique event. The art world globally. We are proud to invite and host over 300 participating artists, writers, and many other art professionals, and make this a big meeting and melting point of people from the art ecosystem, as well as general audiences, to give Dhaka Art Summit a unique look and feel.
We started collecting the young artists' work from Bangladesh, and then we realized that there is a huge, strong contemporary art scene here, and people have no clue about them. And then we also were planning to build a South Asian art collection, and we also figured it out that other than India and a little bit of Pakistan, we don't have any information about South Asia, because our art infrastructure in the region is also suffering. And that is how the whole idea came, and we believe that South Asia we are a very strong platform.
So regionalism for you is a very important theme, right? And when you were making this decision as to how you're going to curate this creature that's developed, what were the things that you really wanted it to be very different in this platform? Because you've been exposed to biennales, fairs, all of that.
So basically, we just didn't want to start another biennale, because we thought that, we call it a summit because it has everything in it. So we have performance, film screening, speaker panels, to solo projects, and there are different curated exhibitions with different themes. So where it is totally different than the biennale, and we thought that, this is something that is very important to do something like this. And obviously it was challenging to all of a sudden start something new, but we thought that we have nothing to lose. First of all, and there was nothing much was also happening. And another thing which we have done this year is, you will see out of our 11 curators, 6 of them are institutional curators. And our agenda is that these curators, we fund and support their research in the region for 2 years. And of course, our audience in return see a museum standard quality exhibition, and they take back the knowledge to the institutions.
So that, of course, is how it's been a constructive sort of exchange, really, so to speak. But even within choosing your patronage, because you've sort of you've been patrons for works that have showed at international festivals as well. You've sort of developed artists as well. How do you make those decisions as to who do you support?
The talents, we have a team, we have a curatorial team, we have our artistic director, so it's a joint decision.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I understand that even as this summit is closing, so to speak, you are already going to start working on the next year. I mean, the next summit, so to speak. What are some of those ideas you have at this stage, given the fact that you've seen such an interesting participation in this particular one?
We're still at the initial stage, but we kind of have an idea of who we'd like to invite for the next edition as artists, also as curators, but it's in-house. We're still talking about it.
Bangladesh is always culturally very vibrant, and anything happening here, whatever it is, art or music or dance or literature, the people actually, they just flock in. I mean, and by doing this, actually, we move further. And you know, we are experiencing something negative all over the world, which is terrorism, in the name of religion, in the name of politics. And to combat that evil force, if I may say so, politics is not the only weapon. The major weapon, we believe, that it is our culture, because this culture has kept this country secular all the time. Though it is a Muslim majority country, but you know, if you come to this land on Poila Boishakh, which is the Bengali New Year, you will see that people from all religions, from all class, they are celebrating it together. So that's the spirit which we want to hold on forever.
What are some of the reactions that you're picking up to all of this?
I mean, everyone wants to work with us, and that's pretty impressive to have a choice of, you know, the best institutions in the world and to give them the resources to develop their research with South Asia. Because I think one of the great things here is that usually you'll have curators curating South Asia shows for Western audiences, but now we're flipping the table. We have curators curating South Asia shows for South Asian audiences. And I think that gives a new sensitivity to international institutions wanting to work with the region. And I think it's also a long-term commitment rather than parachuting in, because to work with us you have to take many research trips, and it's let's say, a more sensitive process.
Speaking of process, I understand you start, you're probably in the throes of planning the next summit. Yes. And we're only talking about 2018 here. Okay. So now that you're sort of seeing this entire episode really come together, and it has very beautifully so, what are you planning for next year?
Well, sneak peek. So these are just ideas in my head, and they obviously could change. But as you see, we do crazy construction in this site in order to transform this building. We also have an architecture section. I would love to find a way to tie this construction with that architecture section and just completely transform the way this place looks. I'm thinking of sculpture courts. There's many things in my mind. We're thinking about textiles, we're thinking about architecture, and we're thinking about visual arts, and also writing, and how do we bring those into a more cross-sectional form? Because right now, architecture is in its space, art is in its space, the writing's in another space. How do we mish it all up the same way we have with, you know, the different South Asian countries? We purposely haven't had shows of like, this is the Pakistan show, this is the India show, and I think that sort of thinking will continue into the future.
As a curator, what does a summit like this really bring for you?
I think it's a really extraordinary research platform, and the fact that the Samdanis have supported this as a nonprofit research platform means that curators like myself, who may be familiar with one part of the region or certain artists here, can have the opportunity to learn about whole new groups of artists that we otherwise wouldn't have been exposed to. I mean, especially with the history of Bangladesh and Pakistan, so many records have been lost, and it can be so hard to access information about artists from one country or the other. And so the fact that we've been able to bring together artists from both places is really fantastic. And on the other side, I'm the contemporary art curator at the Rubin Museum, and just to be exposed to all of these South Asian artists working in such novel and exciting ways with new commissions that the Samdanis made possible is really great.
What does a unique platform like this mean for an artist?
On a very, 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 very critical, important, profound level, I have been talking to artists, curators, and writers. That never happens in an art fair. No, it doesn't. I have made connections with artists in Pakistan, in Bangladesh, in Sri Lanka that I would never have seen in an art fair, and had some meaningful conversations about our relationship to this part of the world. So it's, in a way, it's again, it's the hyphen that is the motif of this work. It connects us and separates us at the same time.
I collect very differently. I collect site-specific Indian contemporary art, which I've now sort of gone into site-specific art from the Indian subcontinent. I own works like Lippi Begum and Rana Begum, etc., but which are one-off work, but not specific to what I am doing at the moment. But I am planning, once I go through this art fair, to see how I can do it in a site-specific context.
It's an opportunity and a philanthropic platform for artists from South Asia or who work with South Asia to really be exposed to a global audience. You have here people from Tate, MoMA, Guggenheim, leading contemporary art institutions in the world come to Dhaka to look at what the region has to offer. Look at not only as a source of inspiration, but in terms of new talent. It's a great opportunity for the artists. The Samdanis have created a way for them to be exposed to the world. How else would a photographer from Dhaka be seen by curators from New York and LA? You know, on a fantastic platform. So it's really a possibility of an opportunity to lift the whole contemporary art of the region, to make artists be seen, taken seriously, judged on their own merits. There's nothing commercial here. It's not about selling. It's not about galleries. It's just a platform.
And you, of course, have been spending time with a lot of collectors, seasoned collectors, and I can spot quite a few, groups of people that you've kind of been guiding and with. What are the observations you feel they have coming to this?
Well, they're impressed by the infrastructure and all that has gone into it, the organization, etc. So that's one level. In terms of the art offering, people are fascinated, whether it's Harun Mirza, Aisha Sultana, whether it's the Rewind exhibition, which really looks at modernism in Bangladesh and the wider region. Again, these are artists that have been very little explored. So there's an opportunity to learn. It's not for you to discover new talent. We all studied very carefully the Samdani Art Award nominees. And, it's a great way to feel what's out there, to get a sense of what's out there. It's a really top-level experience.
Give me a sense of how the Guggenheim has sort of participated in this entire platform.
Well, the Guggenheim recently, I guess about 6 years ago, launched the Asian Art Initiative, and really was our sort of first concerted effort of looking, beyond contemporary modern art of Americas and Europe. So this has been developing over the last several years with exhibitions focusing on work from India, China, Japan, but this opportunity to come to Bangladesh and be able to explore the histories and contemporary art practices here as well has been wonderful.
We enter a space where you're not being hounded to purchase. You're just viewing it, you're absorbing it, and you're allowed to interact with it without having any stress. And a lot of times, artists make their best works when they're not under pressure to sell it. So they can really create, they let themselves really delve deeper. Great works come by, and those are the moments that we're looking for, really.
first of all, congratulations for being a part of this project. You've been working on it for 2 years. I want to understand from you, what is the current status of architecture in Bangladesh? Because this seems to be a very strong movement that you're showing us here.
Yes, it is a very strong movement, actually. It has a strong root in the first modernism after the independence. And the great master, Musraul Islam, has a huge influence of the next generation. Not only because he was an architect, but because he was a humanist. And he brought, as a Bengal Renaissance in the architecture field, all this cultural depth that we can find here in this country.
When you talk about the Bengal School of Architecture, what are some of the big characteristics that you can describe with it? It's a tough question.
Yeah, in short time, I would say the strong root with the Bengal culture. For instance, the monastery, Buddhist monastery of the 18th century, of the 8th century. So first of all, a strong statement of culture in this region from ages, I would say. A very awareness about the question of landscape, the question of this liquid landscape as a deltaic country, the materiality as well, bricks, and the will to bring together people in a space and in architecture.
I wonder, in a city like Dhaka, the little that I've seen, where is this sort of flourishing? Because it's a city that's obviously struggling with urbanization, rapid urbanization, population, congestion, infrastructure. Where is all of this really happening?
It's a good question, because it's true that it's not very easy to look at, to see, to discover in the street when you are in the traffic jam. But I think things are a little bit, if you cool down, if you walk on the street, if you know people, if you take time, little by little you discover this kind of treasure. You have as well a very, very interesting architecture in the rural area. And for instance, Kashif Chaudhuri or even Marina Tabassum, all the architects here are very involved in the question of rural development. So if you take time to go to the countryside and to slow down, you will notice incredible building.
It's a very sensitive issue, sexuality, right? Especially in the kind of cultural context that all of us live in. Has it always been easy to really get into these people's lives, or?
No, it's not. You know, first of all, to say that, you know, you're from India, you might know that as well, that we have a penal code called 377, and it's a colonial law. British colonial law, which illegalizes same sexuality, and on top of that, Bangladesh is also a very patriarchal society, so it makes it very difficult, especially for the female as well. They're like minorities within the minorities, but then again, you know, these are people, and these individuals, you know, the sexual identity they have, they're innate by nature. It's not like something made up or fake, and they're...
But aren't people hesitant to show you and be exposed through your work?
No, not at all. I mean, they were very happy, they were brave enough, and they said, Nafis, if you can do this, that would be lovely. No one has ever done this before, and they really wanted this to be out there, their voice to be out there, you know, they really wanted to be out there, show their identity. They were brave enough. They're very brave human beings, I think so.
As a person like yourself who's seen so many different kind of platforms, what do you have to say about the platform itself?
Well, I think everyone kind of prefers the biennial platform over the art fair platform. The art fair it's a trade fair, and you know, rather than say a sanitary ware fair where you would have toilets and sinks in your booth, it's an art fair, and we have paintings and sculptures and photographs. I mean, it is a market-driven thing, and it's for the galleries to present their own stuff. This is like a big museum. I mean, I assume this building is like Lalit Kala. There's always art in this building, but the Samdani Foundation fixes it up, cleans it up, and I think they spend time, so it's a more professional type of museum, and especially in a country such as Bangladesh, where I imagine there's very, very little of an art market. What's the point in doing an art fair? It just leads everyone to frustration and guilt, and I mean, this is actually the kind of thing that will push the art scene into another level. Just for a young artist to see the quality of the exhibitions, the level of presentation, the style of installation and lighting, and the diverse array of works. Most of it is from South Asia, but there's a few artists that aren't from South Asia. So I think I'd like to actually see things like this more in Delhi.
So I'm curating the Samdani Art Award, which is given to one artist. It's a residence in London, and it's given to an artist under 40. I got a shortlist of 20 artists, came to Dhaka in last October, and I met all the artists to discuss their work. And from the 20, I choose 13, and those are the 13 who now are shown in the exhibition. And one of them will get the prize, I don't know.
The selection process is something that is quite difficult, I'm sure, even for you as someone who's making those selections. What are some of the thoughts that really came to you when you were interacting with these artists, when you were interacting with the art? Give me a sense as to what you got a feeling.
Yeah, so often it can be a painful process because you're sitting through 20 times 1 hour discussing artworks, and very often happens that maybe half of it is not interesting or not really up to date. But this wasn't the case here. So I was very lucky. I had 20 incredibly interesting discussions with young artists. I also asked them about the country and how they live, etc. But mainly their works were very engaged and very interesting. So it was easy to do, and I hope it translates into the exhibition.
The winner is Rasil Chaudhry.
Summit is very big opportunity for us because of in Bangladesh there is only 2 or 3 organizations who are working for the art. Summit is one of them, so it's a really big opportunity for the young artists.
Does it become an addiction on some level?
Oh yes, of course. Of course, it's an addiction, and it's amazing. And there's so much love and passion that has been for every edition for 2 years, and it's been an amazing journey. Even for all the projects and all the artists and the curators, to be a part of it from the very beginning and see the ideas develop and to what it actually happens, it's really, really amazing.